started. Cole can catch up when he gets here, and I will approve the minutes. If you guys just want to dive into anything else we have, we can just approve the minutes when he gets here.
That sounds good. And just a reminder that we do have the March ones from previous.
Yep, I printed both of them out.
So if we'll just remember at the end to come back to March and May, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, so today we have two agenda items. We're going to start off with our virtual school, and then our second presentation will be around our media services and digital tools.
Okay.
Before we begin, I believe we have two people who have signed up for public comment.
My name is Laura O'Neill. I would like to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation for the remote virtual program and the positive impact it continues to have on my daughter, Brianne. Since enrolling in RVP, Bree has thrived academically, socially, and emotionally. The program's synchronous online model has provided her access to rigorous instruction, dedicated educators, and a learning environment that allows her to succeed while meeting her unique needs. As a parent, there is nothing more reassuring than seeing your child engaged, challenged, and growing as a learner. What makes RVP truly special is its people. Bree's teachers, SEIAs, special education coordinators, speech-language pathologists, and music therapists have consistently gone above and beyond to individualize instruction, support communication and self-expression, and ensure she feels connected and valued. Their flexibility, creativity, patience, and professionalism have made a meaningful difference in her confidence and progress. Together, they've created a virtual environment where Bree feels safe, included, and empowered to succeed. The quality of this work has not gone unnoticed. Earlier this year, RVP was recognized by the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee with a Champions of Special Education Appreciation and Acknowledgement for its commitment to students with disabilities and its partnership with families. That recognition reflects what so many of us experience every day within the program. I would also like to recognize Mr. Hoover Beat for his leadership of the program. Effective leadership often happens behind the scenes, but its impact can be seen in the culture, stability, and success of a school community. Under his leadership, RVP has become a program that many families, including mine, deeply value and trust. While reviewing today's presentation, I wanted to offer one small observation regarding the FCPS and RVP enrollment slides. The full-time enrollment trend slide shows a 0 for FY24 and FY25. Those familiar with the program understand that this reflects the discontinuation of grades 3 through 5, not an absence of enrolled students. Since earlier slides include helpful parenthetical notes that provide context, a similar clarification for 24-25 could help ensure the program's story is represented accurately for those unfamiliar with its history. Finally, while I am genuinely happy for Mr. Hoover Beat as he pursues new opportunities, I would be less than honest if I did not acknowledge that many families may feel some uncertainty during this leadership transition. My hope is that the strong foundation that has built at RVP will continue to grow. I look forward to working collaboratively with the next leader of the program, as well as Mr. Watson and district leadership to strengthen partnerships between families, schools, and FCPS. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Meadows, and I'm a parent of 3. My kids have taken part in virtual learning since it became a full-time option in the 2021-22 school year. Education is not one size fits all, and I believe that FCPS's strength has come from providing different educational options through its specialized schools and programs. While many thrive in traditional classroom settings, others do not. Virtual learning is a lifeline for students facing health challenges, anxiety, bullying, and other circumstances that make it difficult to attend school in a physical school building. For our family, our kids did not thrive in person. They felt our schools were overcrowded, overwhelming, and distracting. It was difficult for them to complete their work and to recall what they had learned during the school day. Online learning allows my boys to focus and learn in a quiet environment at their own pace. They've become more confident students and are active participants in their classes. A crucial piece as to why this school is successful are the synchronous lessons. It is the dedicated teachers providing engaging, personalized lessons that create collaboration and a community feeling in the virtual classroom. It's important that this remains a priority in the virtual classroom, just as it does in the physical classroom. And finally, I would like to thank Mr. Watson and Mr. Hoover Beat, who collaborate on a regular basis and always welcome feedback from our families working to better the school. Virtual learning expands the opportunities that are available for all students across the county, and FCPS offering these options demonstrates a commitment to access, flexibility, and student-centered learning. Thank you.
Thank you for being here for public comment. We appreciate it. And thank you to Mr. Watson for being here today, joining this presentation. We really appreciate you taking the time during the busy month of June to be here, and our Director of High Schools, Dr. Affy Mearshaw. So take it away.
All right. Well, we've already done introductions, so we can take a look at the outcomes for the presentation. We're going to talk about how RVP was brought in under the umbrella of FCVS and became part of the unified program that serves now students grades 4 through 12. We're going to talk about some of the program components and the ways that we are providing access for our students. And we're going to talk about some, things moving forward as we continue to refine and build the FCVS programs and align our practices in the school. You can see the data here that we have, and we did take note of the public comment in terms of the grades 3 through 5, so that adjustment can be made. But we do want to point out that we have, pretty strong numbers at the high school level. One of the things that I noticed when I looked at this is when you look at SY 21-22, that was still pandemic time. That was still like coming out of the pandemic. And so when you look at the number 320, which is what the current predicted enrollment is for 26-27, it is mirroring that number. It's really showing some growth. I think that might speak to the changes that have been made the last couple of years and the access and the opportunity that's been provided at the 9 through 12 level. And then you can see some, slight dips as we go across at the middle school and the elementary school. And so that's something the school leadership is going to have to look at and see, are we reaching the families we want to reach? How are we advertising? How are we promoting to make sure that everybody that would benefit knows about the program and can access the programs? So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Watson, the principal of FCVS, and he's going to walk through the programs and really explain the during the school day programs versus the after school programs and the difference between the middle and the high school programs, or the RVP school program.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would pay attention to as far as this data is, like, we expected some enrollment declines as we came out of the pandemic. We thought that would stabilize over time. And while the numbers for our elementary and middle school might appear to be low, they still provide an extremely important opportunity for some of our families who are looking for alternative options for their students. So just want to prioritize that. And as Dr. Mearshaw said, we'll continue as a leadership team to explore ways of how we can communicate, market, and share those opportunities with families in FCPS. How do we get this to move? There we go. For our high school students, Frederick County Virtual School acts as a comprehensive online option for students. They are still connected with their homeschool. If you attended graduations last week, you saw many of our students participating in their homeschool graduation. What makes our model unique is that we do combine a balance of structured synchronous learning opportunities as well as independent learning, which helps students to build both academic skills and some of the time management skills that will help them be successful after high school. Our supplemental programs, this is probably where we have the biggest impact across the county. While our full-time enrollment gets a lot of attention, you can see thousands of students every year take courses with Frederick County Virtual School while continuing to be enrolled in their homeschool. For a couple different reasons. Sometimes it's just scheduling flexibility. Sometimes a course might not be offered at their home school, like Latin is an option that only 3 of our high schools currently run. So students who are looking for that option have the opportunity to take that with FCVS. So whether it's through credit recovery, acceleration, scheduling flexibility, or taking specialized courses, we continue to expand options for students across the county. And the last bullet's one that I'm extremely proud of, is that 1/3 of our students who graduate every year have taken at least one course with FCVS, just showing you the impact it does continue to have across the county to provide students and schools with some flexible scheduling options. For our 4 through 8 program, our remote virtual program operates similarly for our grades 4 through 8, in that we provide synchronous and independent learning options for students. Students are still technically connected to their home school, but at our 4 through 8 level, we're providing more in-person and virtual options for them to connect, build relationships that they might not get because they feel uncomfortable going into their home school. We're actually, one of the nice advantages of us collaborating more this year is that we're seeing that we could take some of those, some of the things that the RVP families are engaging in and expand those to our high school students to give them more opportunities for club activities, opportunities to connect with each other, hang out. So that's been a nice blessing that's come along with the kind of consolidation of programs. We also have some supplemental options for grades 6 through 8. Right now it's primarily focused on French 1, and while it's a much smaller number of students that are enrolling in this compared to our high school, it still provides an equity and access opportunity for students whose middle school might not be offering French. We currently offer that at 4 of our middle schools, the virtual option, and I think we're looking at 5 possibly next year. This chart shows you our alignment that it illustrates kind of the consolidation over the past year. Historically, these programs have sometimes operated somewhat independently. Our focus has been to unify them, not necessarily to make them all the same because they serve very different student populations, but to rather have them under the same umbrella so that we have common vision, common supports, and a common leadership structure to help serve those families and students that are enrolled in those various programs. So, yeah, this year was the first alignment of taking the remote virtual program and putting it under the FCVS umbrella, which allowed them to use the school code that's associated with FCVS. It also helped us establish a shared leadership vision of virtual online learning moving forward. Helped us increase collaboration with staff across different levels and articulation for serving students that are transitioning from either elementary to middle, from middle to high. And so what we are trying to do is to just have the same consistent expectations and serve our families so that the students who stay with us across all of their high school career don't see a drop in service when they move from elementary to middle to high. So while we've done a lot of the work as far as the structure, we're still continuing to look at ways to improve. One of our focuses is refining the staffing structure to better serve our families and our scheduling needs, strengthening supports for our students, and also expanding the professional collaboration amongst our teachers, but also addressing some of the operational challenges that arise when you have multiple programs under one umbrella. So we've completed the organizational work. We'll continue to do the continuous improvement by reflecting, refining our practices along the way. And one of the things that I think we're most proud of as well as a staff is that our climate surveys have continued to give encouraging indicators that our families are supportive of what we are providing. They continuously report strong academic engagement, communication, school climate, and overall student well-being. So we'll continue to look for opportunities to improve in those areas so that we can continue to best serve all of our students and families. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity to share updates. We're excited about the direction that online learning is taking in Frederick County Public Schools. I think it's one of the things that make us innovative as a school system when you compare us to other local LEAs. And so it's just exciting to see the growth, see the continued demand for it, and we have the continuous support of our families who continue to just advocate for us, not only at the district level, but at the state level.
Awesome, thank you very much. Hey there.
Mr. Black?
Good morning, Mr. Black.
So I just wanted to follow up. So we are in the RVP program in high school. We are offering synchronous options. Is that correct?
Correct. So would you like me to explain those a little bit further?
Yeah, just a little bit, because I'd heard from some families that we were changing or not necessarily offering enough or offering as many synchronous options, and they were obviously concerned because they seem like their children thrive on the synchronous options. So I
Yeah,
wondered-
that's feedback that I've received from
Okay.
many of our families as well, so that I'm not surprised by that. So I'm going to work backwards. At the high
Sure.
school level, we have two synchronous meets per week per course. So if you're a high school student taking 4 courses in a semester, you'd likely have 8 synchronous sessions per week.
Okay.
Teachers are available every day of the week. So if students have individual or small group needs, teachers can actually request students, or students can request teachers.
Okay.
So that's at the high school level. The rest of the time, they're doing some independent work. And again, some of the rationale for that is to prepare these students for life after high school, where they're most likely not going to have daily synchronous meets if they pursue an online option afterwards. At the middle school level, it's not that different, except that we run a block schedule. So there's an A, B day schedule. So on Mondays and Thursdays is day A, Tuesdays and Fridays is day B. So we're running 4 to 3 blocks each day. So they're meeting synchronously with their teacher and the rest of their classmates at least twice a week. But then you add Wednesday, which is a little bit of a different structured schedule. And so they're meeting with the rest of their classmates 3 days a week, basically.
Okay.
Because of that 7-period day at the middle school, trying to fit all of the different options in there. They also have blocks at the end of the day where they're requested from their teachers, or they can ask for additional support from their teachers as well. That's a lot of the times where we're able to personalize, and case managers able to meet with students. So that's a really nice option to have, and provides some flexibility as well. And then at the elementary school level, they're meeting every single day with the 4th and 5th graders.
Okay. Okay, so we're kind of phasing it down, basically. A little
Yeah,
bit.
so there's different levels of support as you kind of move up in age. And again, I think that's what we see as the most appropriate, is having increased support at the younger levels and then slowly moving away from that at the higher levels. But providing the option to still connect with your teachers on a daily basis if you need to, or they need you to. So.
What has been kind of the feedback from the students who transitioned from, who now might be entering, might have had high school as their first year, or, been in the program a long time and had the different iterations as
It's
far
mixed.
as,
Like, honestly, it's mixed. I think what we could do a better job is helping transition our 8th graders to 9th grade. And preparing them for that model a little bit better. So we've been doing some reflecting and thinking about how we do some onboarding, especially for 9th graders next year. One of the challenges of that, to some degree, is that we only see, of our 8th grade students that are in RVP, only 50% of them actually come to us in 9th grade. Yeah, so a lot of times the data that we've seen over the past couple of years is some families are just choosing it for a middle school option for a variety of reasons, and then once they get to the high school, they want to actually transition to maybe participate in some of the extracurriculars that we're not going to have,
okay,
band, choir, theater, those types of things. Maybe they want to participate in sports, so they're choosing to go back to that environment.
but they can they be in RVP and participate in,
They can.
okay, but they may not really quite so we might need to do some communication with those students to make sure they understand that you can be here and go try out for a play or go back to school and try out for the soccer team or whatever it is you're.
I feel like our counselors do a good job of communicating that because we do have students who participate in CTC, AFA.
Okay.
We have a small percentage of students who are athletes that do their scheduling with us. And then we also have some students who actually, we've been exploring some options for some kids who actually do part-time. They'll be at 2 blocks in the building at their home school, and they'll do 2 courses virtually with us. So just trying to increase those options for students. I think what we've seen is the students who choose us full-time, not all of them are looking to be engaged sometimes in their home schools. Sometimes they're choosing to not engage.
Right, yes.
So it's unique to each student.
Okay.
And so we have this vast spectrum of students that we're trying to serve, and so it's how do you balance the needs of each student.
I think, I mean, obviously we have the middle school setup of 6 to 8 here, but the more I've personally like researched it or gotten in, like I really think like that whole junior high model of like 7, 8, and 9 as a, you know, is more developmentally kind of fits a little bit better. So I kind of see where the particular students coming over from 8th into 9th are struggling with, you know, because developmentally a lot of them are probably so much more an 8th grader than a high schooler, you know what I mean? And so
That's not unique to FCVS. That's the same struggle that our
Yes.
schools have when
Yes.
they're transitioning. That's the same articulation conversation that happens
Yeah.
for all of our schools. The transition from 8th grade to 9th grade is a big one for all students, for all schools. And you're absolutely right. Our 9th graders are closer in terms of maturity to their
Yes.
middle school peers than they are to a senior who's 18 years old.
Yes, and I think that that's just the advantage of that. You know, when I was a kid, and of course that's what we had. I went to school here in Maryland, so we had middle school, and I would hear friends who were in other states, you know, like, oh, well, we have junior high, and I'm like, what is junior high? And I'm like, now I think like, gosh, that's a much more developmentally, you know, just having had my own children and been in the system, you know, around the system for a while. It's like you can see the difference in maturity. So, okay.
The other
So,
thing, if I could, just one thing I wanted to add about this balance of synchronous or not at the high school level in particular, that we want you all and the public to know, is that we used a different type of curriculum at the high school level that's specifically designed for a digital experience. That combines that synchronous time that Mr. Watson mentioned with the self-paced nature. So the digital curriculum is specifically designed exactly for that, where they have the required checkpoints with their teachers, they have their teachers available, but it's mixed with the self-paced nature that's in the curriculum, as opposed to what you might have seen during the pandemic, which was, you have CPS curriculum, Google Meets all day, go teach it. So it's just really, really different in terms of what the student interacts with.
okay. So I just want to make sure that obviously we're trying to maybe focusing a little bit more, or as much as we can on that support. And then to the end about making sure we get to families, like I still encounter families a lot, particularly families who will say something about, you know, bullying and whatever issues in their home schools. And I'm like, have you contacted anybody or talked to anybody about our RVP program? And I mean, 90% of the time they tell me, well, what is that? You know, so I feel like somehow we're still not connect, and I know you guys know this, it's just that I'm just trying to make sure that we kind of brainstorm some options to try to get out there a little bit with that. I don't know what that is, you know?
Well, I know that when families call, like our SASA SAIL team at the middle or high school level, and I work closely with our middle school partner, if those are the types of issues they bring to the table, we will suggest it as an option. There are plenty of families that I say, have you considered virtual? And they may not have. And sometimes they say, no, that's not an option that they want. They still want a solution and they want some things done, but they maybe don't want virtual. There are others who say, yes, I would. Mr. Watson has increased the number of times applications are opened for
Good.
virtual school.
Good.
This year, I think we did, 2 times we did it
Yep.
throughout the course of the year. We did advertising,
Well, 3 times, actually.
3 times. Our comprehensive high schools also send the exact same message. So I get all the Schoology messages. So when I see his message go out, I then get 10 more identical. So our schools then send it out to their lists. So we try really hard to do that. But outside of that window, if there is a family that comes in March and says, like, I need a solution, Mr. Watson and his team are amazing.
Yeah.
I will send the name, and he will find a way, if he has the courses, if he can schedule for the child, he will meet with them and the parents, and there are times when we've had to do that.
And I think a lot of people are a little hesitant to do it because they can't wrap their heads around it. I actually have a friend who's in another county and her son is autistic, and he has struggled, and they've put him in different placements and whatever, but academically he is above grade level. And so when they put him in placements around his autism needs, he's not getting the academic supports, where that are, supporting him. And I have said, she's in Howard County, and I said, oh, well, do you guys have a RVP? And she says, no, what is that? I'm like, well, let me tell you about our great program. I was like, are you guys moving? You want to come to Frederick County? Because it's, the exact kind of right, situation for kids. And I think, too, he ended up going on home and hospital. And, of course, they're working with him, and he's like really thriving on that model. And she's like, I didn't think we could do it, And so I kind of think that that's some of it with the families who are like, I really didn't think I could do this, or that my kid would really like that. But now they're seeing that he, So it's I don't know. Wish we had a better way of convincing people to try it. I think a lot more people would find it was a good option.
I'm very proud of the fact that while many school systems disbanded their virtual programs, that we have not. We have invested in it.
Yes.
We are continuing to grow it. And I have to brag about Mr. Watson. He attends national conferences. He does the research so that he knows what is cutting edge for virtual education in our country. And he is bringing those practices back and implementing them in FCPS.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I love getting, to brag on something like that. Like, oh, well, you're Howard County, but guess what we have here in Frederick County? It's like fantastic, so.
Let's embarrass Mr. Watson and recognize that you are seen as a leader in the state in this area.
Okay.
And we really,
All right, well, I've hogged the time. You have anything else to add?
No, you did great.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, so our next presentation,
Okay.
there you go, thank you. You'll be hearing from our Media Services Supervisor and our Digital Learning Experience Supervisor. This is Ms. Jody Jankowski and Mr. Eric Haynes. And we have combined this presentation into one as their work does overlap in specific areas and
Okay.
support each other quite a bit. So go ahead.
I'm Jody Jankowski. I'm the supervisor for Media Services. And this is
As she said, the Eric Haynes Supervisor of Digital Learning Experience.
no.
This isn't good for somebody that does digital. I haven't learned a single thing yet.
We're back. So the outcomes for our presentation are pretty simple. I'm going to review with you curriculum updates for Media Services, and Eric is going to review current work in the digital learning experience. So, just recently, COMAR language was updated for library media, and the recent update affirms that all schools must have a school library media program, a certified media specialist, and direct instruction in media literacy. And so that's really just emphasizing beyond, obviously, the important service side of media, that there's also an important instructional side around information literacy, digital citizenship, so not just a book repository. That's not a problem here in Frederick County. We already have certified media specialists in every school, and next year, every school will have at least 3 days a week of access to a certified media specialist who will be teaching those media classes. We have been working this year on updating the FCPS media standards in our curriculum. The state and national standards were updated, and so we have been working on updating our curriculum to align with that. And so we've gone from 4 curricular strands in the past: culture of reading, digital citizenship, inquiry, and creation and application. And we're shifting more to 3 strands. That creation and application strand isn't going away. Those standards have just been embedded among the other 3 strands to just, those 4 strands weren't all fully, equally developed and fleshed out and carried the same instructional weight. And so the idea is moving to these 3 strands. All 3 do carry similar instructional weight and are expected to have the similar amounts of instructional time devoted to them. So now we're on culture of reading still. Digital citizenship has become digital literacy. We're just doing so much more now than just digital citizenship. So it still encompasses, you know, being responsible and safe online, but also so much more. And I'll get more into that in just a moment. And then the inquiry piece, which is really just research, the research process. So culture of reading is all things books. It involves becoming aware of different genres out there, helping students to understand how to select books that are of personal interest to them or that meet their information need, and just growing in appreciation for good books. So just to kind of reiterate what I was saying earlier, our curriculum updates are based on the updated American Association of School Librarians standards that came out in October. And so our work this year has also been around analyzing the lesson resources we currently have and just seeing, you know, where do we have gaps, where do we need more lesson resources, or where do some of our current lessons need some updating and beefing up to meet those standards. And then that's basically what we're working on this summer. We identified those gaps, and now our summer curriculum writing is focusing on developing those lessons. So in digital literacy, like I said, we're still talking about being responsible in our technology use and ethical. We're interacting with other people in a respectful way, but we're also using technology to do things. So coding, computational thinking, as I'll talk about more in a second, using artificial intelligence, all of those kinds of things, but using technology to solve problems and create new things. And so, yeah, another one of our big focuses this summer in curriculum writing is going to be around artificial intelligence at all grade levels and answering some of the questions you see here as far as like, how does AI work? What are the pros and cons of using AI? You know, how can I use it ethically? How can I give credit and appropriately tell my teacher how I'm using AI if I'm allowed to use it on a particular assignment? And then finally, the inquiry strand. Like I said, this is really just the research process from start to finish, from identifying an information need and developing research questions, finding reliable sources of information to help answer that question, and then sharing your learning, whether it's through a paper, a digital project, whatever that product might be. And then we have a team that's working on developing units for 2nd grade and 4th grade in the inquiry strand. So those were some areas that were identified through that analysis work this year as areas that needed more updated units. Cool. Your turn, buddy.
All right. So over to digital learning experience. There we go. So our team is part of the curriculum instruction department, and we provide support for over 70 tools. We handle the rostering, clever sharing rules, and really that's just a fancy way of saying we make sure that the right students get the right products and tools. So a 3rd grader gets the 3rd grade textbook, not AP Calculus, and that it's as seamless and as smooth of a process as possible. So we try to make things easy for teachers and students. We are the liaison, the point of contact for all technical administration of our digital tools. And we also support the textbook approval process and support our curriculum supervisors as they go through selecting textbooks and resources that we're supporting them to make sure that they're going to work on the technology side as well. Additional support for them in Tier 1 documentation and just supporting training for teachers. And then, of course, troubleshooting directly with teachers. We've serviced over 2,000 tickets this year, requests for support, lots and lots of emails and phone calls as well, and in supporting teachers with our digital tools. And so we also, in terms of areas of focus, we also support across the system with our digital tool approval process. So we facilitate that process for the system, whether it's a curriculum tool or any other department, special ed, or really anywhere that's instructional. So we facilitate that process. We review for accessibility, and then the process moves on to Dr. Vedder's team to review for data privacy, and then also technology infrastructure to review for network security. We updated that process, and I certainly want to call out one of our team members, Ms. Kara Morrissey. She led the process of really consolidating our approval list this year, which was a huge undertaking. We had lists for software that's installed on devices, digital tools, our augmentative communication team tools, iOS apps, Chrome extensions. These were all different lists. And so to pull all of that together this year and make sure that things were updated and easy to review for staff, for teachers, and even in purchasing, making sure that everything is clarified and updated. We also, I mentioned we review all of the tools for students with disabilities according to Maryland 7-910, and all of the accessibility requirements and reporting requirements for that. We're also the team that leads the support for Schoology across the system. So, and the grade book as well with that. We have Schoology ambassadors. So we have 78 teacher leaders that are embedded in all of our schools that serve as the point of contact for Schoology support. And so they are also providing support in their schools. They've led parent workshops, staff workshops, also throughout our schools this year as well. And then I want to take a moment just to touch on AI. Jody and I are the co-chairs of our AI leadership team in Department of Curriculum Instruction. So there are teacher specialists and curriculum supervisors that are part of that team. And we've been talking with students and talking with teachers and thinking about how do we prepare for the launch of student use with approved tools. And we've been talking to curriculum supervisors about how they'll start to think about how this might integrate into your curriculum. As Jody mentioned, she's already thinking about digital literacy and digital citizenship, what that looks like moving forward in a world where AI is now a thing, and we're in kind of a new era with that. And then also, just to touch on that, we're making plans in anticipation of a board policy on AI that we're planning ahead for an advisory committee that we would love to have support us with the implementation of AI moving forward. And so we're already starting to think about what that might look like next year if we have a AI policy approved. So with that, I will turn it over to you all for questions and discussion.
Sure. So I guess my question is, in talking about the media specialist, one of my biggest concerns is that when I walk around schools, I don't see students in libraries reading. I see students on computers. If you're bringing students in for a research project, I think one of the biggest failures of our school system is the fact that we are not utilizing the library the way we should. And my question to you is, what can we do? I understand that all this digital stuff is great, and no disrespect, but at some point, all this digital stuff could go away. If the right bomb hit our country right now, all this digital stuff is gone, and books is what we have. Why are we not pushing harder to get our kids reading? Because reading off a screen is not the same as reading a book. What are we doing to actually get our kids reading and researching from books, not computers?
I mean, I think there's a mix there. Cost has something to do with it because a lot of our, especially reference materials, certainly there's a lot of nonfiction books out there, but when you think about reference materials like encyclopedias, things like that, a lot of that stuff has largely moved online and
I certainly
non-existent in print.
Right. I understand where you're coming from, but there's certainly quite a few nonfiction books that all of our schools have. What I see is we're getting to a point where if we're not going to utilize books in school, we should eliminate the library. Because what good is it doing for the students? It's costing our school system thousands and thousands of dollars if we're not going to have our students reading books and researching, which is exactly what they should be doing. Let's eliminate the library. So what are we going to do to get our kids actually reading? Because I'm telling you, I have 3 kids in FCPS, okay? I can count on my hand, and my oldest is a junior. I can count on my hand how many times they went to the library and actually researched and cracked a book. And that's not unique just to my kids.
If I can jump in.
Sure.
I'll say that with the implementation of our HQIM at the secondary level, specifically for ELA into literature, this is the first year of our high school into literature. That really is, and we've had other conversations about consumables in students' hands and writing and reading more on paper. We do see the importance of actually reading paper books, and so I agree with you. And so really it's not just media. They work together very closely with our social studies teachers, our ELA teachers, and we're moving in that direction because we do see the importance of
What blows the mind, though, is that we moved away from that direction. And it shouldn't be, I mean, we have these books on our shelves.
Yeah.
This shouldn't, I mean, I gotta say, this shouldn't be a hard switch. This should not be a hard thing. We shouldn't actually have to have a major conversation like this about a system-wide issue. This is so simple. You have books in a library, you take the kids to the library, you read books. Pretty simple. This is such a ridiculously simple issue, and the fact that we complicate it this much is absolutely outlandish. And it stymies me. I can't believe that we sit here and have these conversations and are not putting books in our kids' hands. Ridiculous.
Regarding the AI, and I mean, I'm all for obviously teaching children how to use it as a tool. I'm really mad it wouldn't translate what I wanted it to translate from English to Spanish. Very mad about that. But what are we doing? Do we have like detection mechanism? Like right, it's one thing if we have assigned you, hey, learn to do this. It's an entire other thing when you're having it write your English paper. So what are we doing to kind of make sure that outside of when you've been directed to use it, we're catching it? I mean, I know when I was in college, we had I went back to school, not the first time, because I went in the ancient times in the late 1900s, and we didn't have all those tools back then. But now, when I went back and was doing some coursework, they had all these detections for, plagiarism and stuff like that, and you had to run it through some type of safe paper thing or whatever. So how are we handling that?
I would say AI detectors as a whole are pretty unreliable.
Okay.
And MSD's come out with a statement that says they do not endorse AI detectors. It's not something we would support. We think that our teachers as professionals as well, like they even go back 5 years or 10 years, we had Google. Students might Google and plagiarize, copying whole sections and things like that. And so, that type of plagiarism is cited in our code of conduct. We would just encourage teachers to kind of follow the guidelines that are established for plagiarism. If they were to suspect And so comparing to handwritten student work, prior student work, they're also really good at understanding. I know I taught middle school, and so, you know, I know what a 7th grader writes like. And so, you know, when you've read thousands of essays, you kind of understand, you know, oh, this one doesn't look like all the rest. And so maybe we need to have conversation there. And so that's my fear, is that AI detectors lead to like accusatory relationship between the teacher and the student. And so we don't want that to be the result, is that we are saying, well, you cheated, so, you know, it's more, let's have a conversation about your process and how you got to this level of work.
Okay.
The other thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
just to keep in mind, they made reference to board policy that will be coming to you this year. It's important because we're trying to stay ahead of this. It's been hard this is an area where it's been hard to stay ahead of, because it's changing so fast. But as we go into a new school year, we really want to equip our teachers with new tools to teach students. When is it appropriate to actually use AI to compare ideas or to do a proofread or whatever? There's some scales that we're rolling out. We're going to be teaching kids about when to cite that you used AI and when it's kind of been instructed by your teacher. These kinds of examples, we really need to do a better job equipping our teachers. But there are some in the community who will say ban it. Just ban it outright. And that's why, you know, in tandem with this MSDE guidance that's coming slowly, board policy, this will help us really kind of accelerate some efforts to better equip our teachers once we are able to get to that point.
I guess I'm not entirely on board with not using some type of detector. I mean, I can tell usually when somebody's used it, because they write kind of like you get those fake emails about I'm a Nigerian prince, and where they're speaking in English but they're not speaking American, and you know that that's not actually how normal people talk, and you're reading that going, yeah, that's not normal people speak. But I feel like I don't like the idea that we're not addressing them. Like, I liked running my paper through this, whatever that thing was, and it would come back and it would hit like, oh, this was a quote from wherever. And I'm like, well, that actually is the quote from wherever. Where I cited, it was the quote from, you know, whatever. And I feel like that was really helpful, you know, to kind of make sure, keep people on track and keep people honest. And so I am a little concerned that we're not, it doesn't surprise me that MSDE is not endorsing that, because I don't necessarily think MSDE has the highest academic standards as their goal. But it kind of worries me a little bit. And I feel like, you know, maybe we need to start to look at other options. And this isn't for you guys because you're digital, but just in general, you know, how are we going to start doing more in-class assignments where you are sitting there, you know, where you don't have the option to use something else. And that's the only way we're going to get to the point where we can prove that you didn't use something. But I do feel like, I don't know that I'm completely happy with the whole not using. I understand you approaching it from a accusatory manner. I mean, that's true, you know, and some of the times you'd run your paper through that thing and it would, like, you know, pick up 5 words in a row that is an extremely common 5-word phrase. It wasn't you know.
If I can jump in, I would say, just to piggyback on what Mr. Murphy had to say there too, is in training our teachers to find that balance of, like you said, you know, where you're not using technology and where you are, and then also to try to figure out, like, what's the, you know, if your assignment is an essay on Romeo and Juliet, like, what isn't on the internet? I mean, almost anything you write is going to come up as, you know, 75% AI. And so it's about asking teachers to think about, what are those assignments? Can we personalize it a little bit so that when we're getting those assignments back, we know that it's more authentic?
And this will be the important work of that advisory committee you were discussing, if one is formed, is really taking any potential policy that you now pass through and operationalizing that in the system. And how do we do that? How do we do that well?
But it's good feedback on the checkers. And that's another area of technology that's constantly changing, that we will always have our radar up for. Those plagiarism checkers that you're referring to have been around forever.
Yeah.
And so there's going to come a day where one that adapted for AI is appropriate for us to use, as well as elevating that in-demand writing right now in class is super important.
Yes.
I think that and books, like, you know, we're gonna have to,
You can't plagiarize the book unless you're sitting there copying, and then it's pretty evident that you copied directly out of the book. I seriously think we use technology, the computers, way too much. I miss the days of having the big computer lab where you went in. It wasn't in the classroom. Everybody didn't have a Chromebook. It was a very specialized thing. If your teacher scheduled time in the computer lab, it was monitored. It was so much easier to actually have kids use technology that way. I think that the way that we're doing technology in FCPS sucks, period. I think it's horrible. I think the fact that we're not encouraging the more use of books, the fact that we're putting the kids on the computers, it's probably the worst thing for our kids.
I think overall, we're just, I'm very appreciative that we're trying to get ahead of I mean, it's coming one way or the other. And,
Are you talking of AI?
yeah, just AI, but in
Well,
general,
the kids are using that right now to cheat right and left. I mean, let's be frank. I know kids at Catoctin High School that's in geometry class, they couldn't have passed it without taking their phone and going click and getting the answers. Kids are using AI all over the place. It's the way it is. So if you want to eliminate that problem, we eliminated the phones, good stuff there. Let's do something about the Chromebooks, get this crap out of the schools, period. That's the way to do it. Go back to books.
you know,
That's it.
I agree. I don't like it in the classroom. I don't like
Nope.
the extensive Chrome book usage. I don't like that so many of our textbooks are digital. Although I had a backpack that was like about this big when I was in high school, so I don't envy the children who don't have to walk around with that anymore.
Oh,
That would just get smashed Chromebooks in the hallway and
Oh, yeah,
parents have to pay the fee
there's
for
a
repair.
lot of that
Nobody likes
stuff.
either.
But we do need to stay on top of this. So I'm very glad to hear that you guys are working with that and trying to do it. I mean, it's changing so fast. It's got to be quite a task to kind of keep up with it. But so thank you for all your hard work in that area. So thank you guys very much.
The initial discussion goes to the policy committee of June 24th.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Yeah, I don't like any of it because we can't really find a good way of, stopping its overuse. On one hand, and studies are coming out now about how much, they monitored like brain activity and then like continued use and then, lowering brain activity. And I kind of feel like we're starting the start of the movie Idiocracy.
But this is why I appreciate all the handwriting that's required in our ELA courses now, in our literacy.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
a lot of handwriting and a lot of textbooks, paper books.
Yes.
So I do appreciate that the board is supportive of us making those purchases because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're purchasing paper textbooks and supplements that the kids can write in. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole COVID thing accelerated us to move away from that like right away. And we really didn't have, and everybody got used to it, a year and a half, teaching kids on the screen largely and making sure everybody could have, the only way you could make sure kids had access to all the same stuff is to put it all on the Chromebook, make sure everybody had a Chromebook, and that was the only way to make everything be fair, because you had some kids who still weren't coming back to school. They still couldn't get books and papers and the whole 9 yards, and so it's just it kind of forced us into doing something that we couldn't have a good plan for. So it's not a criticism, but we had no real way of planning for it, and then we've not ever kind of figured out how to.
We are recovering though.
Huh?
That we are recovering.
Yes.
Recovering.
Yeah, I'm very glad we're moving back and we're making some conscious decisions on
There's
that.
also a history before COVID. I mean, Mr. Black, you don't see evidence of it yet, but we fully agree with you from a curricular standpoint about emphasizing print over digital and pulling back on what we know is too much screen time
Why is it taking so long to implement something that we did for years? We literally had kids using books for years. There wasn't this much digital use prior to COVID. It shouldn't be that hard to switch the system back.
Well, you're right, and I think we're in the process of it.
Why is it taking this long?
What I wanted to point out was what really is a longer history. Google, for example, Chromebooks, came on the scene in education about 15 years ago. So there was a period of time where people were learning how this all worked. And even before the pandemic, 2016, 17, 18, you started to see districts move to one-on-one, because it was the new thing in education, to have students on devices. Looking back on it now, probably not the best move to lay that infrastructure down. What we call blended learning or personalized learning became a thing where the technology can personalize it for you. It was a bit of a fad in education before the pandemic, and then it hit. And then the pandemic hit, and now we've learned a ton about that experience over a decade, not just the pandemic.
Yeah.
And this pendulum is pulling back, I can assure you. It takes time to change our classrooms and change the tools and strategies that our teachers use, but this pendulum is in the process of being pulled back, but it can take some time.
I mean, it was a concern of mine when I was looking for schools for children, because even then, and my oldest just graduated a year ago, and I was, I don't like the way we're moving towards technology. I love, a computer class, learning to use it. Absolutely, we need to learn how to use the technology, but I didn't want it every day, and that's why we ultimately put the kids in the classical charter school, because the whole idea behind classical is you're not operating with technology in that way. So you're right, it's been it was a trend for a very long time, and that is probably one of my chief criticisms in general of how, not our system in particular, but just the whole idea behind academia is that we do tend to jump on some fads. The balanced literacy, whole language was not a good fad, and some of the other ones. And I'm glad we're making changes to that. We're going back to phonics for English. We're going back to numeracy and math, and it's kind of like. But the other side, we were actually having a conversation with somebody the other night, and I'm like, well, talking about curriculums and stuff. I was like, well, there's like 3 curriculum. There's like 3 major companies that do, 85% of all the curriculum. So 85% of all the schools in this country have, and they're all basically the same, so it's like, there's not even a lot of options out there to find something different if you were really trying to find something different, and that's unfortunate. So, but anyway, so thank you guys.
From my perspective too, I think, even as the technology guy, right, we're not just out here saying use more. We try to promote balance, and using it where it's purposeful and intentional and thoughtful, based on the age level of the student, the class that you're in. In computer science, we're going to use it a lot more than other classes and things like that. So hopefully, our intention is that if you step back and take a longer view or a 30,000-foot view, that you see more of a balanced approach over the school day for a student. So yeah, I just wanted you to know, like, from our angle too, like, we're promoting those same things, that it's trying to find what's the right balance to learn about it, and yet also not over rely or overuse it.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to go out in the real world, and they're going to need to have all these tools, and we're doing them a disservice if they're not educated on all those tools. But it's tough. It's tough balance. So thank you guys for trying to achieve one. I guess we'll find out how well.
Ms. Brennan and Mr. Black, if you want to, if we're finished with the Q&A portion, if you want to approve the minutes.
Yeah, so I don't know, these are the minutes from the last 2.
Okay.
I just wanted to give this, we didn't approve them
Okay.
one of the last times I was here because I was solo.
Right.
And then, so, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from, it was March
March
11th and May 6th.
Second.
Okay. All right, so we'll say that the minutes have been approved. And then this is our last, actually, CNI of school year 25-26. Pretty hard to believe how quickly it went by. So there's no July meeting, and then we will begin again in August. And then we usually start off with our early childhood education team.
Yep, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And we do appreciate your engagement throughout the year on these topics. never easy, quick answers, but we do hear your feedback, and it provides us with some direction and next steps as well. So really, truly, thank you for the engagement in these various topics.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys very much.
Absolutely, guys.
Right, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you
All
too.
right, thank you.